Hey everyone, I'm Jaha Zainabu and welcome back to Storytime with Jaha Zainabu. This is Storytime with Jaha Zainabu 6. Hey, today's topic is writing is rewriting. So, and it is. Editing is key. Editing is important. And I'm going to go through my process of like the drafts of poems and stories, mostly poems, that I write. Again, there's no law. And if there's a law, I don't know it. This is just how I do it. This is how I have taught it. This is how, this is what works for me. Let's see, let's just jump into it. First of all, how are you? I hope that you are well. Yesterday, we, in Storytime 5, I introduced, Julia Cameron's book, The Artist Way. And I also talked about one of the exercises that she mentions in her book that I still do today. And when I teach a class, I always teach that exercise. And the exercise, again, is called Morning Pages for those of you who did not watch Storytime 5. And if you did not watch Storytime 5, then watch it. So Morning Pages is, to review, is an exercise where you do it in the morning or whenever, but for me, morning works best. And you just start writing. You don't pick up your pen. You don't concern yourself with your penmanship or spelling or anything like that. This is not something that you will revisit. So you start writing and writing and writing, and just do not pick up your pen, not even to go from one word to the next. The idea is to just let whatever is in out, even if what is in is you don't know what to write about. You would literally write, I don't know what to write about. I feel stupid. This is crazy. All those things. And just keep writing. Soon things come out. I've gotten great ideas just from Morning Pages. So if you started Morning Pages, I'd love to know how that's working for you. You can leave that information in the comments. That would be great. Also, regarding the comments, I'd love if you have questions. Please let me know. Talk to me there. So when I started this project on YouTube, I didn't know what it was going to morph into. I didn't know what it was going to be. I just knew that I was committed to telling stories or talking into the camera for an hour. And it is quickly, because this is only 6 and we're going to 365. So it is quickly shaping into me talking about writing, which is kind of my default. I have taught poetry classes for many years, and I enjoy it. I enjoy talking about my process, what I do, what works for me. So that is what it looks like is shaping into. So if you have questions, put them in the comment and I'll address them on the next video. Yeah, again, we will be here until June 4th, 2026. So we got a long way to go. And stick with me, because we're going to be talking about writing. We're going to be talking about getting unstuck. This is something that I know. This is something that I have receipts for. I talk about what I know. I don't do videos. I don't write poems about how to have a successful marriage, or how to bake a cake, or I don't know, whatever else people make videos about. I don't do videos about that. I talk about the things that I know. And I know this. If you need help getting unstuck, I am a good resource. In addition, I also, if you are working on a poem, um, mostly poetry, because that's just where I live, that you want to go deeper in, or you need help editing, or you need, I do give one-on-one counseling like that. Just hit me up in the comments and I'll send you my information. I do charge for that, but like minimum, like easy peasy. Just because it's an hour of my time. So let's get into writing is rewriting. I'm looking down because I took a few notes today, because I take notes, but even though I take notes, I leave stuff out all the time. So my first draft, and I'm going to refer to me. I am not going to say things like, okay, this is what you do, and this is how you, because you might not choose that way. Again, there's no law. This is just how I do it, what works for it. Wow. So my first draft is just about getting the story out, getting it out of my head. I choose to write instead of type, on my phone or on the computer, on my laptop. I choose to, with a pen and paper, actually write. There's something about actually spelling. There's something about actually, it coming from my hands that makes a difference for me writing, and that's how I do it. There are some people who don't write poems down at all. Some people just create them from in their head, and that's it. And they may never put it to paper. That's their way, and that probably works really good for them. Yeah, that probably works great for them. For me, I write poems down. And so and I go through drafts of them. That works for me. So like I said, the first draft, I focus on just getting it all out. And I get it all out like, it doesn't have to make perfect sense. I get it out like if I were writing someone about a dream that I had. Dreams don't make sense, but I give as much detail as I can remember of the dream. And so, same with poems. I just get it out. So whatever the idea is, if it's I don't know, let's say a love poem. I might a love poem to somebody I'm in love with. I might just get out how I feel about this person. As specific as I can, but not attached to it. Just getting it out is the point. When I want to write and I know what I want to write about, but I don't know how to begin, I usually begin with the time and where I am. So I might say 4 o'clock Atlanta, and where I am. 4 o'clock Atlanta, I'm in my bedroom. And then I'll thinking of you and how you made me feel. And when you touched me that way, and the way you listened, and the way you look at me when I speak. And I love you. And these are the feelings that I have when I think of you. Um, or I might describe a date, or I'm just making stuff up right now. I'm not actually actively working on a poem right now. But I just try to get the thoughts out as best I can without concerning myself, and as fast as I can. Not fast like speed demon, but just getting the thoughts out in a flow. Not I try not to take too many pauses. I try not to think too long about it, because like I said, it is the first draft and nobody is going to read this. The first draft is my business. I am not going to stand on the stage and, spill my first draft. I can do what I want there and I don't so much anymore, but I tend to keep that. Like earlier, I would try to keep that in my head, because that could be a hook for me. Like, oh my God, this looks crazy. This doesn't look like a poem. This looks, I'm not a poet. And then I go eat a burger. And probably not return to the poem. And that's not the point. That's the opposite of the point. The point in the first draft is to get it out, whatever it is. And then I might let it sit. And your let it sit phase will last as long as you let it sit. I try not to let it sit long, because when I'm in a session, when I'm in a flow, I like to stay in a flow. So I might work on a first draft and I might have coffee, or I might have a snack or something, and then I come back to it and I begin the next draft. Not necessarily starting over, like with a new paper. Sometimes I do, but sometimes it's just looking at that first draft, and I look for ways where I can go deeper. Look for ways where I use words like beautiful or fine or great. That's another thing I talked about in Storytime 5. So when you use words like that, when I use words like that, I recognize that I am not inviting you into my world. So in the example of the love poem that I just created off the top of my head, you made me feel good. You make me feel good. In the writers group that I belong to, it's called the Anansi Writers Workshop at the World Stage in Los Angeles. One of the things we say, and this is not specific to us, people say it all the time, all over the world, show me, don't tell me. Like, show me, don't tell me, show me. Like, show me what great looks like. So you make me feel great. What does that actually look like? And that's where your poem is in the show. Your poem is in you showing me in your words how you made me feel great. And if I'm showing you that you made me feel great, I am not going to use the word great at all. I might show you, you show with examples. if I'm in bed and I'm sick, and I show you in with my words. And I'm making this up as I go along, so forgive me if I'm a little slow with this example. If I show you with my words, you cooking soup for me, and bringing it to me, and sitting me up in bed, and feeding me, and kissing my cheek, giving me water. Like, show me, paint this picture for me. That's different from, you made me feel great. Like, I can see, like, oh, okay, like, give me an example. Let me see what great looks like. You make me, when you look at me, you make me feel beautiful. What does that mean? What does that look like? What does you feeling beautiful look like? I don't know what that is for you, but like, you work that out. And the words could be words and phrases could be words and phrases that you make up. I do that all the time. There's a poem that I wrote. It was a love poem also. I think I read this poem in one of the story times. But in the poem, I'm talking about a love, and I'm feeling giddy about this love. And I used a phrase, and I said, I am Easter service nervous. Like, and it could be a thing that only I connect to. But I remember growing up in the church, and Easter service was it was a thing that all day we were nervous about. Not nervous, but like giddy about. It was the dress, it was the pressed hair, it was the speech we had to give. My God, it was the tight ass leather, patent leather shoes. It was the stocking. It was the whole. And so my feelings about this person, like, he made me Easter service nervous. And so you make up your own phrases, or create your own words. But show me beautiful. Show me instead of just telling me. And when show me in a way that you want to invite me into your world. For instance, now if I as an exercise, in many classes that I've taught, I have the class or have the students write a poem that they are where they are not a poem, but a writing prompt where they are describing something, or let's say describing a date, and they're talking to their best friend, right? So you're talking to your, so you can take this on as a writing prompt. You're talking to your best friend who knows you well, and you are describing a date. Okay. You're going to give certain detail, whatever details you would give to your best friend. Okay, so you do that. After you do that, same situation. It's a date, except this time you're not talking to your best friend. You're talking to excuse me, you're talking to your grandmother. Okay. And this is considering, you have a just kind of a regular relationship, grandmother, granddaughter, grandson relationship. Not, I mean, if you and your Mima, grandma, mama are best buds and y'all talk about sex and fucking and shit, then use somebody else. Go to her mama, okay? Use your great grandmama, okay? Somebody you have a more formal relationship with, but a relationship with. Those are two different tellings. Those are two different showings. So the point or the assumed outcome from the two writings is that one will be the conversation or the what you write to your best friend will be a more juicy telling of the date. You might go into the kiss at the end of the night. You might go into he walked me to my doorstep and he all this is some shit I saw on TV. You might whatever, he pulled the chair out and the butterflies and we kissed and maybe we did more and I let him in and I know it was the first date, but fuck it, I'm grown. And we sat on the couch and we touched and we did all the things. And you won't say all the things because you would say all the things because it's your girl, it's your man, it's your boy. To your friend. Now, to your grandmother, you might say, we had a nice time. He was a perfect gentleman. She was a great woman. You might say that. So the point is, be descriptive like you would be talking to your best friend. Later, you can always pull back and decide, I don't want to say that much. I don't want to say that much. Later, you can do that. Get it out first. You can always pull it back. You can all pulling it back is better than not ever having it in. So you can always pull it back, but put it all in. Put all the juicy in. And then maybe step away for however long you step away. Again, for me, my step away might be a commercial. My step away could be a movie. But when you return, now you start adding what I call the seasoning. The salt, the pepper, I'm not a cook, so whatever y'all people who cook add. That's the example. But the seasoning is the senses. What did you smell? What do you smell in the room? What do you smell? And yeah, what do you smell in the room? What do you see? And sometimes, and the seasoning doesn't always have to occur in the third draft or the third time you approach the poem. The seasoning could be how you begin, like how you get the juices flowing. You have a general idea of this is all in getting the poem created. Okay, let me back up. So you might have a general idea of the poem you want to write. And you know that you want it to be a love poem. Again, going back to my example, how I begin with the time and where I am. If you want to, this is also a good place for you to add senses and seasoning. Even before you are describing the poem, you might introduce the topic. It is 4 o'clock. Again, you can take all the time, the city, you can take all this shit you can take out later, but let's put it in. It's 4 o'clock. I'm in Atlanta in my bedroom, and there's coffee brewing, coffee that reminds me of home, my grandmother's kitchen. There is bread baking. I love the smell of baking. There is rain. I hear the raindrops falling on my window, and the raindrops falling on my window make me think of you and how beautiful you are. There's that beautiful. And then we circle the word beautiful, and we'll come back to that. And how beautiful you are, and how wonderful you make me feel, and how woman I felt last night. Like all these things, like you're just getting it out. So what's another sense? It is the next day. It is the day after the date. And I am still wearing your t-shirt. Blue, my favorite color. On the floor are your socks that you left, that I hope you return for. What else do I see? I don't know. Whatever else you actually see. The wine glasses, my lipstick red, stained on the glass still. Later, I will have energy enough to wash the dishes. So we haven't even like gotten into the poem yet, but we have, right? We're chugging along here. We are creating bones here. We are making foundation here. And all of this is just describing what you see. The things around, I'm in my room right now, so I'm like what you see, the things around your room. What you hear, the song on the radio. Right now, I'm sitting here and I'm writing this poem to you. I am trying to write this poem to you. I don't know that I have words enough to fit into a poem about how I feel. And then on the radio is Gregory Porter singing You Send Me. And how lovely he sounds. And I don't know. I'm just describing what I see right now. I am just, and as you are describing your senses and going into your senses, as they remind you of the topic, go let your mind and pen go there. You're just talking about what you see, and something you see reminds you of him or reminds you of I have a picture actually that I see. I have a picture of me, and the picture is of me probably about 20 years ago, and it's a beautiful picture. And I have the picture in frame because not because I think that it's a beautiful picture, but because I remember the day that photo was taken, and I was really going through a lot, and it was not the easiest time for me. But when you look at that picture, you don't think that I was going through a pretty hard time. You look at that picture and think, what a beautiful and strong, courageous woman. Like my back is straight, my head is, and I like that picture because it just gives, I don't look like what I'm going through. It gives, I can get through this. It gives this too will pass. And I brought that up because maybe, and I was thinking of things as I see them. And maybe I'm writing this love poem, and I see this photo, and you make me remember a version of myself that I adore, who a woman who is strong and secure, who whatever you love about yourself, or whatever I love about myself. All of this is inside of the sight sense. And then what you hear and what you see and what are you touching and what did you touch last night? And we're just talking about senses. So you see how you don't have to sit down at your desk and think poetically. You don't think, you don't have to think rhyming words. You don't have to think similes. You don't have to think metaphors. You don't, all of those devices you will add later. You will add them later. That we're not there yet. We're not there yet. We are getting the heart out. And in a poem, the heart is the point. The heart is the point. All of the other things you'll add later. And if you are new to poetry and new to writing, your heart is what matters. You getting it out of here, that thing beating in you that is specific, that lives in you matters, that makes it yours matters. The devices, the techniques, the poetic tricks and flips, all of that you'll add later. We're not there yet. And I think that people get hooked by those things. Like, I'm not a poet, I'm not a writer, I don't know how to add whoop-de-whoop. Just get it out. Because there are people who, and I listen to them often, I know it when I hear it. The poet on stage who has all the techniques down, but there's the heart is missing. I would much rather listen to a poem with no metaphors, no similes, no, none of the, none of that. But the heart is there. I can work with that. Like I can work with that. I can show you in a 2-hour conversation, a 2-hour session, and we can add that stuff in. But so like I said, I could listen to a woman on stage describing her I hate to be dark, and that's what I'm avoiding. That's what the pause is, because I was going to say describing her child passing away in her arms, and I don't want to be that right now in this video. But imagine, like, if you are, what a woman watching her mother bathing. I have been a caregiver for about 25 years, and I have cared for many an elder who I watched die. As a matter of fact, I used to work in a hospice, and my job was to, right after the patient died, it was my job to clean the body and prepare the body for the family to view for the first time since death. And there is story in that. And I have never watched a loved one of mine actively die in my care. Imagine that story. Imagine wiping her face as she's lying there on the bed. Imagine the details of fixing her clothes, fixing her hair. Imagine the memories of that will flood, that would, flood. Imagine the things you would say, because they always say that, the hearing is the last to go. So imagine the things you would say. Like that's a poem. That's a poem. There is poetry in that. So much poetry in that. And I could listen as an audience member. I could listen to that poem go on and on. I could be pulled into that. I am not pulled into flashy poems with, your great vocabulary and how well you memorize shit, and that have no feeling. I'm just not. Some people are. I'm not. And it's not about me. But this is. Because it's story time with Jaha Zainabu, and I happen to be that bitch. Yeah, so I am pulled into that. What is the phrase? That is from the heart will reach the heart. You can do poems for the applause and the fancy words and the rhyming phrases and the fancy flips will get you the applause. They might even get you a score 10 in a slam. But for me, it is the poem. The heart is the point of the poem. If you pull your juiciest journal entry, you can pull the heart out of that. It is not my suggestion that you go on stage with your journal entries. That is not. Actually do some work before you get on stage. If it's a poetry night, do some work and make it a poem. Just because the heart is the poem, it is a poetry night. Behave accordingly. So do some work to make it a poem, because work takes wrestling. Work takes, it takes time. Work takes more than your first or your second draft. When I'm in an audience and I hear the poet get on stage and say, I wrote this on the bus on the way here, and I just wanted to, immediately you lost me. And it might be good. You just lost me. Now, you can get me. Maybe it's that dope. But when I hear that, it's just me. Because I know the work that it takes. And I'm not saying you can't write a poem in 10 minutes, because you can. But, for the most part, do some work. Put elbows into this poem. And that grease is rewriting. That grease takes drafts. That grease takes paper. That grease takes ink. That, after I think I'm finished with the poem, I look at it, and then I read it, and then I read it out loud. and then I rewrite it. And if I can rewrite it without changing anything, I might be done for a while. Whatever a while means, a day or two, ever, I don't know. But if I change anything, if I take out the, then I'm going to write it again. That's me. I'm going to write it again. I'm like actually physically write it again. And then I will read it, and then I will read it out loud, and then I will rewrite it. And you have to know if you are being lazy or disciplined. Like I can't just judge that for you. You have to know when when it's giving, your energy is giving. I'm just tired of writing this. Fuck, I'm done. Because maybe it's just time to put it aside. And then you'll come back to it. You can always revisit it. Some things can be in the revisit pile. But I don't like to present a poem until I can write it a few times without having changed anything. The other thing that I do is, we're again talking about drafting a poem here, and writing is rewriting. The other thing that I do is, when I think that I'm finished, I'll read it from the top up, the top on down, and then I'll read it from the bottom up. What do I mean by that? The first line of the poem might be, I love you because you care. And then let's say the whole poem is about why I love you. And the first line is, I love you because you care. And the second line is, because of I love the way you make sacrifices, the way you sacrifice yourself, your time, your energy, your money, your love. And it goes all the way down. All of these are the ways the ways I love you. Often, by the time you get to that last line, you have worked up enough, and like it's juicy, it's good. Like when you're in the middle, it's real good, and then you get to the end and there's that line and you're like, fuck, that's it. That's your first line. So read it from the bottom up, that last line where you said, I love you because you make me dream of the tomorrows I hope we have. Begin the poem right there. And then go from the bottom all the way up. And then that last line is what you started with. And it's simply, I love you because you care. Try it. Try this at home. If it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't work for you, you got a new poem. Yeah, you got a new poem. And YouTube is free, so you're fine. You're straight. You're good. You're good, you're good, you're good. So the other thing is about, in another draft, there's the draft where you are adding. And then you got to go to the draft where you are taking away. And in a draft where you're taking away, look for words that you have overused. I don't like to use a word, a standout word. What's a standout word? I don't like to use words more than once. There are so many words. Like, for some reason, I just get the ick, ugh, when I hear the word incredulous. I just can't stand it. Mostly because when I hear and read authors who use the word incredulous, they can't stop using the fucking word. He said X, and she looked at him incredulously. And he responded, and then she had this incredulous look. And, I mean, it's just like, stop use. If you use incredulous one time, don't ever use it in the whole. Don't use it again. In the book, don't use it. You did it. You did it. If you use trepidatiously, don't use that twice in the poem. Don't do that. Don't use it again in the book. You did it. If you use mellifluously, don't use that again in the poem. Don't use it again in the. Don't use these $15 words again. So you just got to be, and you know, they don't have to be like these like college words. They could be even words like, I don't want you to use, I do use beautiful. I do still put beautiful in a motherfucking poem. I do. But don't use it again. That's a one time. You get a one time beautiful. You get a one time beautiful. You get a one time fine. You get a one time great. You get a one time. If you get that. You also got to be careful in how you place what we call cuss words, whatever you say. Fuck, shit, damn, hell. You got to be careful. I love them. That's my shit. Cussing is my motherfucking jam. Okay? But you have to be careful how you use it. Or it could just sound like you cussing because you're finally 16 and you're not gonna get a spanking anymore, and that's gross. That poem, that line needs to call for fuck. If not, don't use it. If not, don't use it. If it doesn't call for damn, shit, hell, goddamn, don't use it. But sometimes it calls for it, and it will spice shit up. Use it. Have the fuck at it. Use it. But just be intentional about your words. I don't know why, but I'm thinking about, so when I was growing up, in the house we lived in, we didn't have a garbage disposal. And we had to empty the food from the pot into the trash can. And I remember one day I was washing dishes. I was a little girl and I was washing dishes. And there was a pot of rice. And the rice could not go down the sink, down the drain. It had to be emptied into the trash can. And I had this pot and I had a metal spoon. And I was just clank, 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 clank. And my mother was in her room, which was not far from the kitchen. And I don't know if it was my mother's intention on giving me a life lesson, or if it was just that I was annoying her, you know, because it was just clank, 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 clank. And she got up and she said, make sure that when you are using the spoon to scrape the rice into the trash can, that every time you scrape, every time you swipe the pot, that you have a spoonful of rice. So just like, because otherwise it's just clunk, 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 clunk. But if you are intentional, if you are focused on like just getting the rice into the, and I thought of that in this, what I was just talking about. Make it make sense for yourself. Don't judge me. But yeah, so I mean, it does make sense actually. Don't just throw in a bunch of shit dams because you grown and you can. Make it make sense. Cussing is good, done right, done well. It is not good, not done well. You ever hear? I used to ride the bus a lot in LA. And sometimes I would ride the bus and there would be kids on the bus, and maybe 6th grade, 7th grade, 5th grade. And there would be kids and they would be in groups, and and they start cussing, and I used to love it. Like just listening to a 5th grader cuss out loud away from his mother, his parent, whatever. Cause it's bad and wrong, and that fucking goddamn bastard snot ass shithead. And I go, what? Huh? So you're just gonna use all the motherfucking cuss words right now. And while it's dope, coming from a 5th grader, cuss better than a 5th grader, my loves. So just be intentional. Not just those words, but all of the words you use. That's where the wrestling happens. That's where I talked about Toni Morrison yesterday, so I was trying to use another example, but I'm rereading Beloved right now, and I'm just falling in love again with Toni Morrison, as if I could be more in love with her. I can't. Because that every word is the word she meant for that. There isn't another word that could go there. Only that one. She fought for every word. Fight for every word. And guess what? That means that the poem is not going to be done maybe tonight. And that's fine. Or tomorrow, maybe. And that's fine too. But fight for every word. And the kind of word doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be some, great big. You don't have to send people to the dictionary. You don't. In fact, sometimes you lose people when you do. Like if I gotta look shit up every time I listen to her, I'm good. Sometimes just speak to the people. Give it to the people of God, okay? Yeah, sometimes just speak to the people. Yeah. I was going to give an example, but I'm not. There was a poem that I wrote, and I didn't know this word before. It was just a word that I think maybe I read it or heard it and looked it up because I thought it sounded nice. How does it? I think the word is mimesis. Mimesis? I don't remember how to spell it, but it means imitation. And I used it in an opening line of a poem. And the opening line never landed because, for one, people don't fucking know motherfucking mimosas, okay? And I could be saying it wrong. I could be remembering the word wrong because I have since taken that word out and put in the word imitation. The where is it? I don't have the book handy. But the poem is in my book. I'm writing to tell you, if you have that. And the poem is called Push. And the poem begins, we learn to push love away through imitation. We saw early our fathers and brothers second us to their cars and gods. And basically that stanza is, as girls, we learned to push love away through imitation, through, we saw our mothers do it and we do it too. And we learn to push love away through imitation causes a different sit-up than we learn to push love away through mimosas. Like, I'm still sitting back because I don't know what the fuck mimosas is. I hate that I might be saying that wrong. But I don't know, you know what I mean? I just wasn't attached to the word. I just was attached to that. It was just some new word I thought was cute, and I thought I'd put it in a poem. And then I tried it, and it didn't work, and I took it out. It didn't even mouth well. And I'm big on an opening line. I want you to sit up or sit back, you know, or I want you to get curious. I want you to have questions. I want you to wonder where this is going. All in the opening line. I want you to wonder that. And mimesis does not cause that wondering, that curiosity. So I took it out. And it's that simple. So heart will get you through. This is to my heart is not it, because you do have to make heart poem. You do have to you need to add the devices. You need to make it a poem. It's not journal entry show. It's a poetry reading if you are reading your poems. But in a clinch on stage, heart will get you through where devices might fail you if you don't have heart attached. Okay, I'm going to give you this example. In 2001? No, 2002. Because 2001 is when 9/11 happened, right? The the New York, the buildings fall. I'm sorry, forgive me. My words are crazy right now. But a year after 9/11, two men who are filmmakers, what's their name? Conweiser brothers, created this tour. And the tour was to go from New Orleans to New York. And the tour was to finish in New York. And they were making a film along the way. It was a bus tour, so we were all on a bus. So there was a bus tour. And they're filming like this documentary. And the proceeds were going to go to the black families of the black firefighters who lost their lives at 9/11. And I'm going somewhere with this. And I think there were only 6 of us on the bus. And it was everybody had been selected except for there was one more seat left. And that position was going to go to either me or a phenomenal poet named Thea Monnier. If you don't know Thea Monnier, look her up. Thea is a friend and a sister poet and a great human being. You can look up her videos on YouTube, Def Jam, all the things. Thea was on it. Anyway, so there's this. So the Conweiser brothers create this poetry event in LA, and basically, the event was, there were a bunch. Maybe there were about 6 poets, other random poets, and then Thea and I were also on this show. And the point was to see me versus Thea, kind of making, both of us on stage, and so that they could make their final decision. And so I think Thea went up, but she did. Thea went up before I did. And as usual, as per Thea, she's flawless. And she did a great job because it's Thea. And then I don't know if I was next, but I was definitely after Thea. So someone goes, and then it's me. And then I get up, and I chose to do a poem that I knew well, that I could, do, in my sleep, flawlessly. But I did not do it flawlessly. Okay, I did it the opposite of flawlessly. I don't know why. Maybe the pressure and the stress of just them watching me, and like what was at stake, a seat on the bus, and on this tour. Maybe all of that. I don't know. But I just I'm in the poem, and somewhere in the middle of the poem, I just go blank. And instead of doing the whole, oh shit, I went blank, I didn't do that. I was like, oh, I don't know where that poem went. I lost it. I don't know. And I just started speaking from my heart. The shit did not rhyme. There was no fucking metaphor. There was no, simile. I was just saying the poem, the heart of the poem from my heart. And I said, thank you all, good night. And I leave the stage and I go to one of the directors. And I said, you know what? I just want to say thank you so much for even considering me. If you are ever, in LA again and you have another project, if you wouldn't mind considering me again. But just thank you for the opportunity. I hope you have a successful tour. Good night. And he was like, whoa, wait. He said, Jaha, I just want to unofficially welcome you to the bus, welcome you to the tour. And I was like, did we see the same? Did we see the same show? Did we watch the same Thea? And then did we watch the same Jaha? Did we? And he said, I know what you look like, flawless. That's why you were considered in the first place. I know flawless Jaha. But this tour is going to be very busy. You all will be doing 2, sometimes 3 shows in a day. And it's going to be busy, and it is going to be stressful at times. And at some point, everybody is going to go blank at some time. And he said, I need to see what happens when that happens to you. So I think I only got it because I messed up and did well messing up and was able to speak from my heart in that mess up. Flawless to flawless between Thea and and me. I don't know who would have gotten it. I don't know. But in his words, he liked what he saw when I was under what he would consider pressure. I didn't. But what he considered pressure and how I handled that. As it happened on the tour, I didn't go blank. I don't know that any of us did. Yeah, but it was a stressful tour. But all that to say, your heart will get you through. Your heart will carry you when the devices by themselves won't. The rhyming words won't. By themselves. I could have gone blank and started rhyming, and no. I could have gone blank and started using metaphors out of my ass, and no. So your heart will get you through. So we have been here long enough. I'm going to wrap it up. The heart is the point. Getting it out is the point. Just doing it is the point. Putting the story out in the world is the point. It is my prayer. It is my hope that you do this today, friend. Today. Peace.